So on the normal average YouTube video, I would tell you, hey guys, wait until the end of the video to find out exactly how I got my credit score to 811 and I boosted it by around 43 points. But in reality, I don't want to have you guys wait all the way till the end of the video. So the reason and the how I actually did it is pretty simple. I paid off about $21,000 in student loan debt. But that's not the only thing in this video because obviously it's a lot longer than one sentence, okay? So the real thing is, guys, I've been playing this credit card game for the past like 8 years or so. And I know exactly the buttons to push, how to manipulate them, and how to actually maintain my credit score without actually getting into any debt. And I also know how to boost my credit score without having to pay off any debt either. So in this video, I'm going to tell you all these little tricks that I basically use to have a pretty good, decent credit score at a pretty young age that the average person does not have. And by the way, I have zero debt, like zero debt. So that's also pretty cool stuff. And I'll tell you by the end of this video how all that extra stuff actually works. Okay, so as always, guys, like this video on top of also subscribe and hit the bell so you get notified. Now, you're probably wondering, Tommy, why is it that if you paid off your student loan debt, then your credit score was basically boosted up? You know, I don't like to complicate things. Yes, there are 5 factors when it comes to your credit score and all that good stuff. But overall, I want you guys to actually use common sense. Okay, so the whole point of having a credit score is to help a lender actually make a good decision to whether lend you money or not to lend you money. That's the entire thing we're trying to do here. It's like a report card. With a report card, I show it to the college and they say, hey, you have all F's, we don't want you here, or you have all A's, or you have A's and B's, you have a pretty good average, and we think you might be a good fit in this college. The same thing is happening with a credit score, so I want you guys to just apply common sense, okay? So if I'm going to try to lend you money, what do I care about the most? I care that if I give you money, I'm gonna get my money back. So what are the factors that I actually care about the most? I care that you have a good track record for making payments on time. I care that you're not borrowing, for example, a bunch of money and you want even more money to try to help you solve your problems. But really, you're probably just gonna owe me money too. I also care you've been doing it for a while, so you're not like brand new, like a newbie, and I'm gonna give you money and hope you pay me back and learn how everything works. I also care that you're responsible with different types of credit and so on, okay? That way, I know, hey, this person knows exactly how to manage money overall, knows how to manage debts, and all that good stuff. So as long as I went ahead and said, hey, I owe $21,000 in student loan debt, and that balance is clearly on my credit score, which put me at about like 760 or like 780. I don't really recall. I'll show you guys in a second because it's on the phone. But overall, when I went ahead and I paid off that big balance, what does that show that lender? It shows them, hey, if you no longer have that student loan debt, you no longer owe $21,000. You no longer have to make student loan payments. That puts you in a better position for me to go ahead and lend you more money. The crazy thing is about credits and lending money and borrowing money and all this good stuff is basically the less money you basically need, like prospectively, like you don't really need the money, they will want to lend you money because that makes you usually pretty responsible. So the reason I also went ahead and paid off my student loan debt, even though it was at a pretty low rate, was because you don't need to be rewarded for doing the right things. And as far as for me, my whole goal is financial independence, and that looks like having no debt, having no person or company have any rights to my cash flow every single month. And then that way, I just feel a lot better. So that's why I always say personal finance is personal. And I have a whole course on this and the link is down below. Now, number 2 is, Tommy, you also told me you have other methods, okay? Other methods to basically go ahead and boost your credit score. Well, one big factor I keep mentioning, obviously, okay, the biggest factor is, do you have a good track record for paying on time? That's super big. So in my entire 8 years of using credit, I have never missed a payment. Meaning that when you go over my credit score, it shows 0 late payments. And that is massive because if you have any late payments, that hurts you. And by the way, I've had a missed payment before and it was an error. I called in, they removed it, and I paid it right there, and then boom, everything was fine. I had auto pay on it, and it didn't go through for some reason, and I just basically told them, and they're like, okay, no problem, you paid all the time, so we know it was just an error, it's just a mistake, and they usually only forgive it about once or twice a year, but if you talk nicely, they could usually like finesse it and basically just erase that from your entire credit score. But the second most important part, guys, is always going to be how much of the money that is available for your use are you actually using, okay? And you would think that, well, if they're giving me money and I'm using it, isn't that what I'm supposed to do? The answer is yes, but no. And here's why. Because if I want to lend you money and I see that you have an available credit of $1,000 and you used $1,000, that shows me you're up to here. Like basically you're using all the money they've given you and now you want even more money and you haven't paid that back. That's not a good look. And that's called credit utilization, the amount of credit you're actually using. Now, I love showing real numbers. So right now, my credit score is 811, okay? Now, it used to be about 768, as you guys can actually see down there, and it was actually stuck there because again, I really wasn't doing anything. I was just maintaining it. Now, if you go over, for example, over to my credit card use, it shows you right here, I have an available credit limit of about $30,600, okay? And I'm using about 0% of it, or about $82, okay? I'll tell you about this method later on in this video about how I'm able to actually not go into crazy debt and maintain my credit score and do it all basically automatically. And that actually boosts me up a lot too. So the first thing is, guys, okay, credit utilization, there's a very common rule and it's called the rule of 10, basically saying you want to keep utilization below 10%. And the answer is that if you have a credit limit of $1,000 and you're using $100, you're paying it off every single month, that shows the lender that, hey, this person is pretty responsible. They have a bunch of money available, but they're not using all of it. And that basically puts you in less risk, which makes you a better profile or candidate to actually borrow even more money. It's a tricky game, okay? But that's how it works, okay? So right now, if I went crazy and I wanted to borrow $15,000 in credit card money, well, in reality, that would put me about 50%. Tommy, how do you get that number? The answer is, well, if I have $30,000 available and I use $15,000, that's half of that, or 50%. Now, the minute that gets reported, my credit score is going to go down like crazy. Now, I actually think here, I actually have a record of it, okay? So I actually did this once, and I went from a 767. I hope you guys can actually see that right there. I went all the way down to about 720, and that's the reason. I lost, what, 47 points just because of that, because I basically went ahead and I started using a lot more of my credit card. And that was usually during the time I was actually fixing up the house, and I basically grabbed that money from the credit card because I lost my debit card, unfortunately, and then I had to pay it back, and then I reported it by that point, and then boom, it kind of happened. But then the next month, it was right back to normal, because that's how that works. So there is one method, well, two methods I'll tell you guys right now, okay? So there's two methods to do this to boost your credit score without actually having to actually pay off the debt. So one way is, okay, if you're using, for example, a large balance, which basically means your credit utilization is actually pretty high, above 10%, you could go ahead and basically just get a new credit card. And if you actually did that, that would go ahead and basically boost the amount of money you have available, thus increase your credit score. Now, let me explain this right here with real numbers, because again, guys, I like using real numbers. So if I go over to my Chase account, Chase has been offering me a credit card or multiple credit cards with about $17,000 and $20,000 already pre-approved for them, okay? So if I go over to credit cards right here, and I'll show you guys right now, okay? So I have personal offers right now, for example, for the Sapphire card, for around like $19,000. So I'm already approved for it, and they're telling me, Tommy, just click right here, accept, respond now, we'll give it to you, and we'll give you $19,000. I don't want the credit card though, because I don't care about it. There's also the Chase Freedom one, and they're giving me $18,000. So again, the higher credit score is, the better you are at using it or whatever, okay? The more offers you're gonna get, but you don't need to say yes to every offer, because I just don't care about getting any more credit card money because I'm not using it anyways. I just wanna maintain my credit score for the future in case I need to do something, okay? But for the most part, I'm probably not even going to ever need it again, okay? More about that later. But if I went ahead and I got one of these credit cards, okay? Let's say I got $20,000. I already have $30,000. 30 plus 20, that's $50,000. So that's saying $15,000 balance is no longer going to be half, it's going to be more like 30%, which basically means I'm going to have a lower utilization, thus my credit score is going to increase. That's method one, and that's the game, right? The game is you play with the credit cards, you increase the balance here, you ask for a credit increase here, before you know it, your credit score actually goes up. But this right here, in my opinion, it's a very stupid game. And when you play stupid games, you win stupid prices, because what usually happens is you end up getting into more debt, and before you know it, you won't get any more credit cards. They will not increase your credit score, and you're just stuck paying a bunch of interest. So that's one method, which I don't care about. But the second method is just pay off your balance. That's that simple. So when I went ahead and I paid off $21,000, which I don't expect anyone to be able to do it right now, the answer is when I did that, it just basically showed, hey, you don't owe that much money anymore. That's awesome. You paid off and clear. You made all the payments on time. Great stuff. Well, now your credit score is going to boost up, because now I look like a better person to borrow more money, because I don't have as much debt and I actually have a pretty good track record and over 8 years of history. That's the cool thing or whatever, okay? So that's the method that I use. Now, here is the last part of this video that I really want to break down. And by the way, it's really the most important part and the only part that truly matters, okay? Because the main thing is the way I use my credit cards is simple. I have 6 credit cards available to me. Every credit card has a recurring bill on it, so just one recurring bill on it. That's between $10 to $20 or so. It gets charged to the credit card every single month, and every single month, all my credit cards are set to pay themselves off in full. So that basically shows them what? Shows them the two most important factors. You're basically, are you paying on time? The answer is yes, because I basically pay it off in full every single month on time automatically. Do you owe a lot of money? The answer is no. I just have a small bill on it. So it basically says, hey, you have a credit limit of $7,000, $8,000, $30,000 over here, and you're only using like $20. So that shows me you don't really use a bunch of money. So that's actually a pretty good thing. And by the way, sometimes it kind of hurts you, because they say, why do you want more money if you're not even using money? But depending on how you word things, like I have a big expense coming up and I don't really use things, I'm responsible, right? But I have a big expense going up, and that's why I want to get a credit increase or whatever. So that usually tends to work too. And you should request a credit increase every few years or so, because as you increase your profile, you become more responsible, you have more history, you should have something that's actually a lot higher, even though you're not actually going to use it. So that's what I call the one bill method. I have one bill on each credit card. It gets paid in full automatically. It gets charged automatically every single month. And this way, I record a payment, I keep a low balance, I don't have any real debt on there, and everything is just fine. It's what I've been using for the past 8 years, and it's been working so far, and that's why I'm telling it to you guys, okay? Now, overall, last thing here, twice, okay? Cool benefits of having a good credit score is you get pretty cool interest rates. You get to be approved for good offers. You're able to get a nice job, good apartment. All these things are pretty cool stuff, okay? But at the end of the day, remember, a credit score is just like a report card. It's just a profile. But there's this big lie, this big concept, this big fallacy out there. And the idea is everyone thinks you actually need a credit score. No, you don't need a credit score. What you don't want is basically a bad credit score. That shows basically a bad history. But not having a credit score, it doesn't really matter whatsoever, okay? So here's what they do. Let's say if you don't have a credit score and you want to buy a home, they look at, for example, your actual financials. How much money do you actually get paid every single month? How much money do you actually pay to your bills and all that stuff? And they basically draw up a history. They call this manual underwriting. It's basically what the credit score does, but you have a real person that's taking a look at your finances to determine basically exactly what, like how responsible are you really with money? So how much do you make? What are your bills? What's your history? How do you pay? And all that stuff. And they drop a profile. And based on that, they actually lend you hundreds, if not millions of dollars, depending on what your actual financials actually are. So you don't need a credit score. And I think in the next, probably for this year, 2023, I'm probably going to be closing down all of my credit cards because, again, I'm just not into playing stupid games anymore. So that's just me, though. You don't need to do it, but that's just the way I want to roll. Now, as always, guys, like this video and top out, also subscribe, hit the bell to get notified, and it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to have a credit score because the way I do it is with the one bill method, but it still gives me access to a ridiculous amount of capital that I really don't even want to have access to, okay? So that's just me though, okay? And as always, guys, like the video, subscribe, comment down below credits so I know you made it all the way to the end of the video. Up here is another video. Over here is my Facebook and subscribe. And as always, long-term team officially out.